Do you know of the Spanish heist crime drama television series Money Heist, or La Casa de Papel in Spanish? You must have heard it or even watched it. Viewers were crazed over it since it was featured on Netflix. But have you ever known of the real-life heists in history? Yes, the real pros exist. As you'll soon discover here, pulling off a heist is not quite as easy as it appears in the movies. The real pros steal money in supermassive amounts on an industrial scale. And for really big thefts, you need to be organized and connected. Thieves made off with billions in these daring historic heists. Admit it, we've all thought about committing the perfect heist. That one smooth score where a bit of planning and guts delivers more money than most people make in a lifetime. The following heists proceed from those requiring the least amount of chutzpah to the ones requiring more guts than we can imagine. Along with winning the lottery, robbing the bank is a time-honored technique used by people who fantasize about never having to work again. Granted, it's the more extreme method, and it's successful only as long as you don't get caught. But many robbers do find themselves behind bars eventually. Brazil Banco Central Robbery. The Guinness Book of World Records awarded this heist the title of Greatest Robbery of a Bank, and the plot sounds like something straight out of a movie. In 2005, a group of men rented a property and set up shop posing as a landscape company a few blocks from the Banco Central in Fortaleza, Brazil. They spent 3 months digging a tunnel about 256 feet long and 13 feet below street level from their office to directly below the bank. Crazy! Over the course of a weekend in August of 2005, they used the tunnel to get into the bank and managed to avoid or disable all of the bank's sensors thanks to a tip from a bank employee. From there, they broke through nearly 4 feet of steel-reinforced concrete to enter the vault and stole 5 containers weighing more than 7,000 pounds and holding about $70 million worth of reals in Brazilian currency. Bank employees didn't know anything had happened until they arrived at work Monday morning, and by then, the robbers had already fled the area. However, they made 2 mistakes that led to their demise. As OZY reports, outside, police would later find a large amount of white powder, chalk the robbers had used to cover their fingerprints. And they nearly succeeded, except for one print, their first slip. The second mistake? A member of the gang bought 10 cars at once the next day, paying cash and raising red flags in his poor region of Brazil. Improbably, the police managed to catch up with the trailer carrying those cars in another state, and inside 3 of the vehicles were bundles of real $50 bills. 36 people were accused of participating in the heist. 26 ended up in jail for various crimes, and a few of them escaped. But only about $8 million of the total amount was ever recovered, making this the biggest robbery in the history of Brazil. The Central Bank of Iraq robbery. One robbery in Baghdad became one of the largest bank heists in history. The mastermind was none other than the Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. One day before the Iraq War began in 2003, he sent 3 large trucks to the central bank. American cruise missiles began to rain down on the Iraqi capital. 3 large trucks pulled up to the central bank, and for several hours a steady stream of metal boxes, filled with some $900 million in US $100 bills and 100 million in euros, were loaded onto the waiting vehicles. The heist didn't require guns or explosives, just a handwritten note handed to the bank's governor insisting that the extraordinary measure was necessary to prevent money from falling into foreign hands. The man delivering the signed note was Qasem Hussein, the head of Iraqi security forces, and the signatory of the note, his father and soon-to-be-disposed Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. But despite Saddam's best efforts, the truckloads of cash did eventually fall into foreign hands, perhaps even your own. In total, the men made off with almost $1 billion in cash. Later, army soldiers would find 650 million of it stuffed into Hussein's walls. The soldiers rightly reported the money, only so other soldiers could get caught skimming. Most of the cash was recovered in ensuing raids, but it doesn't end here. Tasked with counting the illicit loot, American soldiers made off with hundreds of thousands of dollars for themselves and their families. 35 service members were caught. Brand new Hummers for American soldiers may not have been what Saddam had imagined when he sought to keep Iraq's currency reserves out of foreign hands, but most of the Iraq dictator's pilfered cash undoubtedly remains in circulation. In some ways, Saddam's epic theft continues to this day, proving yet again that you don't necessarily need a gun to rob a bank or a mask to participate in the plunder. And of course, heists or robberies don't only happen in banks. It can happen in lots of places, really. Dunbar Armored Robbery. The Dunbar Armored Robbery is the largest cash robbery to have occurred in the United States. In 1997, 5 men robbed the Dunbar Armored Facility in Los Angeles, California of $18.9 million US dollars, equivalent to almost $78.6 million in 2020. The robbery was masterminded by Alan Pace, who worked for Dunbar as a regional safety inspector. While on the job, Pace had time to photograph and examine the company's Los Angeles armored car depot. He recruited 5 of his childhood friends, and on the night of Friday, September 12, 1997, Pace used his keys to gain admittance to the facility. Pace had timed the security cameras and determined how they could be avoided. Once inside, they waited within the staff cafeteria, ambushing the guards one by one as they took their lunch breaks at approximately 12:30 a.m. Pace knew that on Friday nights, the vault was left open due to the large quantities of money being moved. Rushing the vault guards, the robbers managed to subdue them before they could signal any alarms. In half an hour, the robbers loaded millions of dollars into a waiting U-Haul. Pace knew exactly which bags contained the highest denominations in non-sequential bills. He also knew where the recording devices for the security cameras were located and took them. The police immediately realized it was an inside job and they closely examined Pace, but found nothing. The gang worked hard to conceal their new wealth, laundering it through property deals and phony businesses. Eventually, one of the gang members, Eugene Lamar Hill, erred when he gave a real estate broker friend a stack of cash bound together with the original currency straps. Hill's friend went to the police. Arrested, Hill soon confessed and named his co-conspirators. Alan Pace was arrested and sentenced to 24 years in prison on April 23rd and remains incarcerated at a federal correctional institution in Safford. Less than half of the money was ever recovered, with some $13.9 million still unaccounted for. And because heists can happen anywhere, if you were assigned to scheme the next most impressive heist other than a bank, you would definitely think of the jewelry stores where diamonds, gold, and jewels can be found. The Harry Winston heist. The Harry Winston jewelry store on Avenue Montaigne in Paris was robbed by 4 men dressed as women in 2008. The posh Harry Winston jewelry store in Paris was the scene of a 2008 smash-and-grab robbery in which 4 men, dressed as women, stormed into the store, pushed employees and customers into a corner at gunpoint, stole almost every piece of jewelry on display, and emptied 2 storage cases in the back. They made a fast getaway with more than $100 million in merchandise, making it the largest jewel robbery ever in France and one of the largest in the world. The thieves appeared to have inside knowledge of the store, The Guardian reports, because they knew the location of supposedly top-secret storage boxes and referred to staff by their first names. 8 men were arrested in what the French media dubbed the steal of the century. The man believed to be the mastermind, Douadi Yahweh, was sentenced to 15 years in prison, the BBC reports, while others received as little as 9 months in jail. According to the BBC, police found $19 million worth of jewelry from the heist stuffed into a drain in the Parisian suburb of Saint-Denis, but much of the loot has never been recovered. The Antwerp Diamond Heist. The Antwerp Diamond Heist, dubbed the Heist of the Century, was one of the largest robberies in history. Thieves stole loose diamonds, gold, and jewelry valued at more than $100 million. It took place in Antwerp, Belgium during the weekend of February 15th through 16th, 2003. Though arrests were made and time was served, most of the diamonds stolen remain unrecovered. Harry Winston is famous for selling, as its motto puts it, rare jewels of the world. The Paris retail outlet occupies a neoclassical chateau of Avenue Montaigne in the luxe Golden Triangle district of the Champs-Élysées, set among such haute couture flagships as Dior, Gucci, and Valentino. One emerald necklace at Harry Winston that Saturday heist cost nearly $3 million. The theft was carried out by a 5-man team, led by Leonardo Notarbatello, a professional thief who was skilled in social manipulation. In addition to Notarbatello, the team consisted of at least 4 other members, perpetrators whom Notarbatello gave aliases during interviews, though he refused to specify whom each alias referred to. Speedy, described as an anxious and paranoid man, he was a longtime friend of Notarbatello and was the one responsible for scattering the rubbish in the woods. Most likely, the alias of Pietro Tavano. The monster, described as a tall, muscular man, he was apparently an expert lockpicker, electrician, mechanic, and driver, and was very strong, most likely the alias of Ferdinando Finotto. The genius, a specialist in alarm systems, most likely the alias of Elio Denario, an electronics expert known to be linked to series of robberies. The King of Keys, an older man, he was described as one of the best key forgers in the world. His true identity is unknown, and he remains the only member of the crew to escape apprehension by the police. The group used a variety of ingenious methods to overcome the security systems and left investigators confused as to how they managed to successfully gain entry without triggering the security systems. Notarbatello was found guilty of orchestrating the heist. He is considered to be the leader of a ring of Italian thieves called La Scuola Torino, the School of Turin, who carried out the crime. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison by the Court of Appeal of Antwerp in 2005, but had since been released on parole in 2009. most of the diamonds stolen remain unrecovered. The Heist is the subject of a book, Flawless, Inside the Largest Diamond Heist in History by Scott Andrew Selby and Greg Campbell. The story of this diamond heist was featured on the Travel Channel's Mystery of the Museum Season 16, Episode 4, titled Project Vortex: Recovery Legacy Diamond Heist in Tinseltown, New Jersey, narrated by series host Don Wildman. Orchestrating a heist requires the plans to be laid out by the most skilled individuals. It isn't easy, but it's not impossible. That's all for the 5 most impressive heists of all time. What do you think of these heists? Comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. See you in the next video.